Hey, let's talk about American inventors that changed the world. And what is a visionary? Hello, my name's Linda. I'm a retired American history teacher, and this is a DYK. Did you know? History and things to think about. Infotainment. Let's get going. Today, let's talk about American inventors and inventions that changed the world. And what are visionaries? If you're not one right now, is there any possibility you can become one? So the first one I would like to talk about today as an inventor and visionary is Eli Whitney. I'm going to take you back before the Revolutionary War, since it's almost the 4th of July, so that you can get a taste of what's going on. I'm going to take you to the South, to the Southern colonies, Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina, and Georgia. And specifically, I'd like to talk about cotton. There were two types of cotton during this time. One variety is a black seed long staple. It could be cleaned easily of the seeds. All it had to do basically was pass through a pair of rollers and bam, the seeds came out. However, the cultivation for that type of cotton was only limited to the southern coast. The other variety is a green seeded short staple type of cotton. This one could be grown throughout the southern interior, so everywhere else outside the seacoast there. It was extremely difficult to clean. In fact, it wasn't really making money, just basically enough to get by. It wasn't big time. Eli Whitney envisioned a machine that would clean the green seeded cotton. Not only could this machine make the South prosperous, but it also could make the inventor very rich also. When you go to buy cotton sheets, the longer the staple, the softer the yarn for textiles. So the best that we can get is Pima cotton. This is grown in the Southwest US and Australia and Peru, and this is going to be your softer cotton. So anyway, back to my story. Eli Whitney came up with a very simple and very effective invention to clean the short staple variety of cotton. The cotton gin has 4 parts. 1, the hopper to feed the cotton into the gin. 2, a revolving cylinder studded with hundreds of short wired hooks placed closely together. 3, a stationary breastwork that the hooks could pass through, but the seeds cannot. And 4, a cylinder with bristles that turned in the opposite direction. That brushes the cotton from the hooks and lets it fly off in its own centrifugal force. Whitney's cotton gin, which is short for cotton engine, is going to be the savior of the South. Before the cotton gin, it would take one person all week to clean 50 pounds of cotton. After the cotton gin, they could clean 50 pounds a day. Whitney's invention made the green seeded cotton a profitable cash crop throughout the South. The consequences, as we all know, is that it perpetuated slavery in the US. And the cash crop of cotton and slavery spread like wildfire. Whitney made very little money on the cotton gin, even though it was so successful. The fact was, so easy to make that people were actually pirating it. Yeah, Whitney went and gotten a patent on it. The fact is that all his profits were being eaten up by lawyers in fighting that patent infringement lawsuits. So he said, you know, forget it, let's move on. By 1797, he was out of the cotton gin business, but he didn't give up. He just redirected his talents into creating something that will change early American manufacturing. Interchangeable parts. In 1797, the United States was being threatened by war with France. The sad thing is they needed muskets desperately. So the two national armories had only produced 1,000 muskets in 3 years. Even the 26 contractors that bid could only come up with 30,200, which is still not enough. Like the armories, the contractors used the very conventional method of making muskets. That is, by using a skilled workman to build a complete musket. All done by hand, each part fitting and unique. If something broke, a part would have to be specially made for that musket. And as you can see, this could be a real problem when you're out on the battlefield. So Whitney broke from the traditional and made a plan to supply 10,000 muskets in 2 years. The thing is, he was bluffing. He didn't have a factory, he didn't have workmen, but he did have a plan. He created the concept of interchangeable parts, where each musket will be made up of different parts, and they would be made by machine tools so that unskilled workers would be trained to making only one part of the musket.
Today, Eli Whitney is often considered the father of American technology.
Eli Whitney has an important legacy as symbolizing the constant innovative tendency of the Industrial Revolution.
While most people remember him for the invention of cotton gin, it's really the concept of assembly in interchangeable parts that truly changed the world.
So now that we're thinking about inventions and inventors, let's see how much you know about inventions and inventors. Are you ready for a challenge? All right, here we go. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Number 1. In what decade did television become widely available around the world? Was it A, 1990s, B, 1950s, C, 1920s, or D, 1930s? Did you pick the 1950s? You are absolutely right. A little history. Electronic television was first successfully demonstrated in San Francisco in September of 1927 by a 21-year-old inventor by the name of Philo Farnsworth. He was still in high school when he began to conceive of a system that would capture moving images in a form that could be coded into radio waves and then transformed back into a picture on a screen. There were several inventors around the world that were conducting crude experiments in transmission of images, but Farnsworth's invention, which scanned images with a beam of electrons, is the direct ancestor of the modern television. RCA invested $50 million in the development of the electronic television. By 1946, there were about 6,000 sets in the United States, and then by 1951, there was 12 million. Between 1953 and 1955, TV program began to change. It started to take steps to get away from that old radio format. They came up with shows like I Love Lucy, The Honeymooners, quiz shows like $64,000 Question, and the term anchorman was used to describe people like Walter Cronkite. Number 2. Which of these inventors registered nearly 1,100 patents? Was it A, Lawrence Livermore, B, Thomas Alva Edison, C, Alexander Graham Bell, or D, Luther Burbank? If you picked B, Thomas Edison, you're absolutely correct. You know that Edison is most famous for his incandescent light bulb, but I bet you didn't know that Edison didn't really actually invent the light bulb, but he did invent and market a design that was first to be practical for widespread use. He designed a vacuum bulb, which a metal filament would be heated to create light. He was also known for the beginning of our record players or the phonograph cylinder, and also the movie camera. President Theodore Roosevelt will be the first president to be filmed, and that would be with Edison's new camera. Number 3, which country financed the invention and development of the early internet? Was it A, the European Union, B, China, C, the Soviet Union, or D, the U.S. government? Did you say the U.S. government? You are right. The technology for the internet was so expansive and it was always changing that it was really difficult to credit the invention of the internet to one person. It was the work of many scientists, programmers, and engineers. The first workable prototype of the internet came in the late 1960s with the creation of ARPANET, which stands for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. It was funded by the U.S. government. Number 4, this explosive was invented by Alfred Nobel. Was it A, the atomic bomb, B, dynamite, C, W-54, or D, gunpowder? If you said B, dynamite, you are right on. Alfred Nobel was a Swedish industrialist, engineer, and inventor. He built bridges and buildings in Stockholm, Sweden. It was his construction work that inspired Nobel to research new methods of blasting rock. In 1860, he started experimenting with an explosive chemical substance called nitroglycerin, which was first invented by an Italian chemist in 1846. And as you know, nitroglycerin in its liquid state is very volatile. In 1866, he discovered by mixing nitroglycerin with silica, it would turn into a paste called dynamite. In 1875, he invented the blasting gelatin, which was more stable and more powerful than dynamite. He came up with also the blasting caps that would explode the dynamite. Alfred Nobel established the Nobel Prizes for contributions for the greatest benefit to humankind. There are 6 areas. There's physics, chemistry, physiology or medicine, literature, and peace. Last year's winners in 2020, they received $1 million. Number 5, and this is the last one. Clarence Birdseye changed the world by changing a process for preserving foods for a longer time. What was it called? Was it A, canning, B, refrigeration, C, drying, or D, freezing? If you pick D, freezing, you are right. Clarence Birdseye created a system of what they call flash freezing, which prevents large ice crystals from forming and allowing the smaller ice crystals to form. Food tastes much fresher this way. It's not mushy and tasteless. He also built huge infrastructure to transport his frozen foods to stores across the country. And as we know, we have seen Birdseye is still around today. How'd you do? You do pretty good? You know your inventors? So what does it look like to be a visionary like Whitney and Edison, Farnsworth, Nobel, Birdseye, and even Steve Jobs? And oh my God, there's so many more. There are some key traits that all seem to share. Number 1, persistence. They don't settle for good enough. They try new things, find new opportunities. For example, Eli Whitney, when the cotton gin business failed, he started working on other projects that ended up being a game changer for American manufacturing. Number 2, bold. They're bold. They are tough and determined. They aren't afraid of failure, only of never trying. Whitney's bid to build 10,000 muskets, knowing he didn't have a factory or workmen. Now that's pretty bold. Number 3, strategic. They envision what they want the future to look like. Whitney could see muskets built of separate parts by unskilled workers. Farnsworth could envision the future of moving pictures sent over radio waves. Steve Jobs, he could see people with their own personal computers. And that's just a few of the traits. So of course, not all people are born visionaries, but that shouldn't stop you. Here are some attributes to work on. Number one, practice reimagining how things are. Take something that exists and rethink it, recreate it. Number two, adopt an outside-in perspective. Narrow it to what steps you need to take to reach that outcome. Number three, seek out synergies. Get ideas and energy from like-minded people. Bounce things off. Number four, integrate dissimilar ideas in your thinking. Take something that is so different, then bring it together with something that you would have never thought of before and align them. Be creative. Look at something new. Look at Philo Farnsworth. He took two different theories like radio waves and moving pictures and put them together and came up with a whole new result. I hope you become a visionary. You never know. Give it a try. See what you can create. Sky's the limit. Hey, someone came up with hula hoops, for crying out loud.
Everybody's playing with the new Whammo hula hoop. Buy yours today at all toy, drug, and department stores. Get one, get two, get more. It's the new amazing Whammo hula hoop.
Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you will know when my next infotainment episode is released. So, take care of yourself, please, and learn something new every day. Don't waste that gray matter. Peace out. Down, Gracie, down.